You know what this stuff is used for?
Yeah, some people filter hot water through it and drink it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this home and filter hot water through it and drink it in the morning.
Having grown up in the 80s, Eddie Murphy is a pretty prominent memory in my mind. After all, comedy can be harsh, and with that, there are a ton of comedians who have incredible runs and undoubtedly leave their mark on the world forever, but then disappear. And even though Murphy's acting career has had ups and downs throughout the years, his legacy remains iconic and has managed to persist throughout the decades. He is the kind of person that has extremely good comedic timing and enormous talent at making people laugh. No matter if you like Eddie Murphy or not, he is without a doubt one of the greatest comedians of our time. He's extremely talented, and not just as a comedian. He is as much an actor, writer, singer, and producer. Since the mid to late 70s, he's been making people laugh with stand-up comedy and rose to fame as a regular cast member of Saturday Night Live from 1980 to 1984. With that being said, who is Eddie Murphy? Edward Regan Murphy was born in Brooklyn, New York City on April 3, 1961. His parents separated when he was 3 years old, and his father died when he was only 8. Around that same time, his mother became ill, and he had to go live with his elder brother Charlie in foster care for 1 year. According to various sources, the actor has stated that his time spent in foster care was extremely influential in the development of his humor. Later, he and his brother were raised in Roosevelt, New York by his mother and stepfather. Throughout his childhood years, Murphy developed multiple characters by imitating his acting hero Peter Sellers and other influential comedians such as Bill Cosby, Red Foxx, Robin Williams, and Charlie Chaplin. What inspired him to actually become a comedian was when he listened to one of Richard Pryor's comedy albums at the age of 15. That same year, on July 9, 1976, Eddie Murphy performed his first public show at the Roosevelt Youth Center, doing an impersonation of singer Al Green as Green's song "Let's Stay Together" played. This led to work at other comedy clubs within walking distance and then late night jobs at locations that required him to commute by train. To do this, he secretly skipped school, and after his mother discovered this at the end of his senior year, well, he was required to attend summer school. Later in 1980, he joined the cast of SNL and earned nationwide attention for the different characters that he portrayed on the show. Some of his most iconic characters on the show were a grown-up version of the Little Rascals character Buckwheat, a streetwise children's show host named Mr. Robinson, which is a parody of Fred Rogers, and an ill-tempered, cynical parody version of Gumby, which was a parody of an American clay animation show named Gumby, centered on a green clay humanoid. On an interesting note about his Buckwheat character, Murphy retired him in spectacular fashion by having him assassinated on camera in front of 30 Rockefeller Plaza. This was actually done upon Eddie Murphy's request after he grew tired of fans asking him to do Buckwheat. Credit is often given to him for having revitalized SNL and given the show a new breath of life, as viewership was declining prior to his addition as a regular cast member. Even though Eddie Murphy's SNL comedy had to remain somewhat PG because of its national television broadcast, Murphy was actually known as a comedian that used copious profanity and sketches lampooning a diverse group of people. During the 80s, Murphy released 2 stand-up specials, Delirious, which was filmed in 1983 in Washington, D.C. Due to its popularity, his concert film, Eddie Murphy Raw, received a theatrical release in 1987 and grossed $50 million. In 1982, Murphy made his big screen debut in the film 48 Hours, alongside Nick Nolte. In this movie, we follow the story of a renegade cop played by Nolte who pulls a bank robber named Reggie Hammond, played by Murphy, from a federal prison on a 48-hour leave to help him capture Hammond's old partner, Albert Gantz, who has escaped from a prison work crew. Once out and about, Gantz goes on a killing spree around San Francisco as he is searching for $500,000 that went missing after one of his robberies. Even though Reggie knows exactly where the money is, he purposefully drives Nick Nolte's character crazy throughout the investigation as he is trying to make the best out of his temporary jail freedom. Even though 48 Hours isn't technically the first buddy cop movie in the history of Hollywood, it is often credited as so because it made the Odd Couple buddy-style movie extremely popular and was soon followed by other similar franchises such as Lethal Weapon, Bad Boys, and the Rush Hour series. 48 Hours became a box office hit and was released in the Christmas season of 1982. On a fun anecdote coinciding with the release of 48 Hours, Nolte was scheduled to host an episode of SNL, but because he was too ill to do so, Eddie Murphy took over. He became the only cast member to host while still a regular. Murphy opened the show with the phrase, "Live from New York, it's the Eddie Murphy Show." In 1983, Eddie Murphy collaborated with John Landis for the first time on a movie called Trading Places. The reason I mention Landis is because he ended up directing some of Murphy's most known films, including Coming to America and Beverly Hills Cop 3. As for this movie, it co-starred Dan Aykroyd, who was also a fellow SNL alumnus. The outline for the movie was made in the early 80s when the director encountered two wealthy brothers who were engaged in an ongoing rivalry with each other. He and his writing partner developed the idea as a project to star Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. When they were unable to participate, Landis cast Aykroyd and Murphy. In this movie, upper crust executive Louis Winthorpe III, played by Aykroyd, and hustler Billy Ray Valentine, played by Eddie Murphy, are the subjects of a bet by successful broker Mortimer and Randolph Duke. Basically, their bet consists on whether a person's environment or heredity determine how well they will do in life. When Winthorpe bumps into Billy Ray Valentine, a street hustler, and assumes he is trying to rob him, he has him arrested. Upon seeing how different the two men are, the brothers decide to make a wager as to what would happen if Winthorpe loses his job, his home, and is shunned by everyone he knows, and if Valentine was given Winthorpe's job. So they proceed to have Winthorpe arrested and be placed in a compromising position in front of his girlfriend. So all he has to rely on is the hooker who was hired to ruin him. Trading Places was the fourth highest grossing film of 1983. In 1984, Eddie Murphy did a really bad movie that's probably mostly remembered by his biggest fans called Best Defense, which in 2 words takes place as 2 parallel plots separated by a couple of years. This first plot, set in 1982, follows Willie Cooper, who is an engineer developing a targeting system on a tank. And the second plot is set in 1984, where Eddie Murphy plays a US Army lieutenant who is an American tank commander sent to Kuwait to demonstrate the XM-10 Annihilator, America's latest main battle tank, which is equipped with Cooper's system. Because of the tank's poor design and terrible construction, Landry and his crew are barely able to control it before it leaves the proving grounds and wanders into a combat zone during Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. This movie did extremely bad at the box office, and even Murphy admitted while hosting SNL after the release of the film that the only reason he did the movie was because of how much money they gave him to do it. Bad movie or not, that same year he made one of the most iconic movies of his career, which is Beverly Hills Cop. This was Murphy's first solo leading role and the movie which led him to international stardom. The initial idea for the film started in 1977 when Don Simpson, a Paramount executive, came up with a movie idea about a cop from East LA who transfers to Beverly Hills. The initial concept was to be a straight action film, and Sylvester Stallone was originally considered to play the leading part of Foley. He did pull out of the project 2 weeks before filming was to start because the studio deemed that the movie would be too expensive to film it the way Stallone rewrote it. 2 days later, the film's producers convinced Eddie Murphy to take on the lead role. Beverly Hills Cop follows the story of a young and reckless Detroit Police Department detective, Axel Foley, played by Eddie Murphy, whose latest unauthorized sting operation goes sour when 2 uniformed officers intervene, resulting in a high-speed chase through the city, which causes widespread damage. His boss reprimands Axel for his behavior and threatens to fire him unless he changes his ways on the force. After his childhood buddy is murdered while visiting Detroit, Axel Foley follows the lead to Beverly Hills, California. Under the excuse of a vacation, he checks in with old friend Jenny Summers and starts to believe her boss, art dealer Victor, might somehow be involved in the murder. However, Lieutenant Bogomil of the Beverly Hills Police Department does not trust Foley and hinders his search for evidence. Beverly Hills Cop grossed over $230 million at the US box office, becoming the highest grossing film released in 1984, the highest grossing comedy of all time, and the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. In 1986, Eddie Murphy starred in a supernatural comedy called The Golden Child. This was actually the first non-R-rated movie for Murphy. Although this movie did well at the box office, it was not as successful as his previous hits. Personally, I remembered watching it as a kid, and even though it was a comedy, many of the sets were pretty dark, and the whole supernatural feel to the whole premise of the movie was enough to keep me glued. The Golden Child starts out in a remote temple in Tibet where a young boy with mystical powers, the Golden Child, is demonstrating his powers to the monks of the temple by reviving a dead Eastern Rosella, which becomes a constant companion and familiar. At that moment, a mysterious man named Sardo has his men break into the temple, slaughter the monks, and abducts the boy. On the other side of the world in Los Angeles, a priestess named Ki Nang seeks the Chosen One who will save the boy from death. When Nang sees social worker Chandler Jarrell, played by Eddie Murphy, on television discussing his ability to find missing children, Key seeks him out and informs Jarrell of the kidnapping of the Golden Child and that he is the Chosen One who would save that child. Despite his reluctancy, they do go on their search for the Golden Child. This was definitely a change of pace for the usually street-smart characters that Murphy had portrayed in previous films. Hollywood being Hollywood, since Beverly Hills Cop was such a smash hit, in 1987 Murphy reprised the role of Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop 2. In this sequel, a bunch of officers in Beverly Hills are trying to solve a series of mostly high-end store robberies distinguished by their monogrammed envelopes with an alphabetical sequence the assailants leave behind them. These crimes are named the Alphabet Crimes. After Captain Bogomil is shot and injured, Axel Foley secretly abandons his current undercover duties and immediately flies out to Beverly Hills to help find out who shot Bogomil. His investigation puts him on the trail of an illegal arms dealer and his hit lady. Although it made less money than the first film and received mixed reviews from critics, the film was still a box office success, grossing $276.5 million, and was even nominated for an Oscar and Golden Globe for Original Song. In 1988, the movie Coming to America was released. This movie reunited Eddie Murphy with director John Landis, who had previously directed Trading Places a few years back. Even though they had worked well together on their previous collaboration, this time Landis and Murphy clashed a lot, but despite their differences, they still managed to make a smash hit out of this conflict. This movie tells the story of Prince Akeem, played by Eddie Murphy, who is the prince of a wealthy African country and wants to meet a woman who will not just love and marry him for his title of prince. To escape an arranged marriage, Akeem flees to America accompanied by his sidekick Semi to find his queen. Disguised as a foreign student working at a fast food chain, he romances Lisa but struggles with revealing his true identity to her and his marital intentions to his king father. This movie was extremely successful and was nominated for 2 Oscars for Best Costume Design and Best Makeup while doing the effects of Murphy and Arsenio Hall's multiple supporting characters. In 1989, Harlem Nights was released. This was actually a special film for Murphy, as it was directed, produced, starred, and was co-written with his brother Charlie Murphy. Also, this film featured Red Foxx and Richard Pryor, which were comedy icons, but also Pryor was one of the greatest influences for Murphy in regards to stand-up comedy. This movie is set in the waning days of Prohibition and tells the story of Sugar Ray, played by Richard Pryor, and his adopted son, Quick, played by Eddie Murphy, who run a speakeasy club called Sugar Ray. When gangster Bugsy Calhoun learns that Sugar Ray's place is pulling in more money than his own establishment, the Pity Pat Club, he pays corrupt cop Phil Cantone to close Club Sugar Ray down. Quick doesn't exactly help the situation when he falls for Miss Dominique LaRue. Reviewers at the time were generally negative, criticizing the film's slow pacing and relative lack of comedy. Nonetheless, it was a financial success and through time has since been regarded as a cult classic. From 1989 onwards, critical praise for Murphy's films started declining, hitting a low point with Beverly Hills Cop 3 in 1994. But that'll be a story for the second part of this Eddie Murphy retrospective. As for this video, well, that's it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Do leave me a comment too and let me know what was your favorite Eddie Murphy moment. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.